Good morning, everyone, and Dr. Kiran here. In today's class, we'll discuss about the neuron. So, all these days, I was just teaching you about the central nervous system rather than the nervous system, and you're wondering what the cells of it are made up of. So, basically, neuron is the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. Now, let's see what are the structures of the how is the structure of the neuron. So it is composed of two different type of cells basically. It has the neurons and the glial cells. So now we can see the different structures here. First we'll discuss about the structure of the neuron. So neurons are the basic structural and functional unit of the nervous system, whereas the glial cells, it is the supporting cells. So just like any other cell in the body, the cell body of the neuron consists of the nucleus and other major cell organelles. Within the nucleus, there will be the chromosome and there is the small nuclear apparatus. We have all the other structures like outside the nucleus we have the cytoplasm which has the cytoplasmic uh, structures which are the mitochondria, the endoplasmic reticulum, etc. But very important here is the nissel granules. So what I'm drawing here, these are the small nissel granules. So they consist of the rough endoplasmic reticulum basically, and they are responsible for the manufacture of the proteins. So they are visualized when stained with certain dyes. So nissel granules are quite prominent in the neuron because of the highly metabolic nature. We also got the structural proteins, the neurofilaments, that is within the nerve cells. They are assembled in the larger neuron fibers here. So these are the neurofibrils, neurofilaments, and then there are the neurotubules also. So these neurotubules are responsible for the cellular transport, bringing the stuff to and from the neurons. Next I need to mention here is the extensions here. So can you see this tree-like extensions or branching? So they are the highly specialized structures called dendrites. So they receive the information from the other cells or the other neurons. Next, after the cell body here, we can see this elongated structure. So this is the axon. Each neuron has one axon which projects out of the cell. So at the end of it, it has several branches basically. So it is related or connected to the other structures of the body, maybe the other neurons or the muscle. So this axon is the pathway where we can see the propulsion of the nerve impulse. It is transmitted through it. So from one neuron to the other. So the nerve impulse, as you can see now, this is how it comes from the dendrite, cell body, the axon. So it is coming down and now it is coming to the axon terminal, and from there it is transported to or transmitted to the next neuron. So this information which comes is called as the polarity in the neuron. When the cell body here which is connected to the axon, this part is called the axon hillock. So what I have drawn in red, so this is the axon hillock. So this is where the axon extends from the cell body. So this is the initial segment of the axon, we can say. At this point of the axon hillock, the cytoplasm is called as axoplasm. Now can you see this? So this is the myelin sheath. So it is the animated myelin sheath. So it acts as the insulator to the nerve. It prevents the escape of the electrical impulse which pass through the axon. Between the myelin sheath, can you see this gap, the yellow one? So these gaps are called as the nodes of Ranvier. It's named after the man who found it, the Ranvier. These nodes of Ranvier, it helps in the propagation of the nerve impulse along the axon. They allow the sort of jumping of the nerve impulse through it. The nerve impulse can hop from one node to the other basically down the axon until it reaches the axon terminal. This type of jumping is called as saltatory conduction, what we'll be studying in physiology, or conduction by saltation we call it. Each different segment which is coated by the myelin is called as the axon segment. So at the end of the axon now, the axon terminal here, we can see these branches. So they form the connection with other neurons. Where the branch ends, so here at the end point, this is called as the synaptic nobule, or the knob, terminal knob we can call. So that is where you can see the presynaptic junction immediately before the synapse. So this is the synapse happening, or the junction happening between one neuron to the other. So information transmits from one cell to the other. So now in here you can see how the one axon is ending and interacting with the dendrite of the other. So this is the axodendritic junction. Types of synapses, we see axodendritic, axosomatic, axoaxonic. So these are the synapses. So this is about the basic structure of the neuron. So now once we studied the structure of the neuron, further we'll study about its classification. So how the neurons are classified and what are the different criteria how we can classify each and every neuron, and what type of neurons are present in humans and what are not. So now let's start with the classification. So basically we can see unipolar neuron, bipolar neurons and multipolar neurons. We'll begin with the unipolar neurons. This neuron, as the name suggests, it has only one process here. So uni, that is one. And this type of neuron is not seen in humans. Mainly it is seen in some invertebrates. What humans we have is the pseudo-unipolar neuron. Pseudo means false. Actually, it's not a true unipolar neuron, but this is what we have in humans. So look at the diagram here now. So we can see only one process extending from the nerve cell body. If this was true unipolar neuron, the process would extend and it should have a single axonal ending, isn't it? Like this, emerging from one single process. But what happens in pseudo-unipolar neuron is the process leaves the cell body and splits into two axonal branches. So we can see one branch extending to right and one branch extending left here. So this is how it is. In humans, this type of neurons are exclusive, and we should not be confused basically between axons and dendrites. What we can see here, the branches, they are nothing but the axons, and the ending is the axon terminal, it's not the dendrites. So in this I am not showing you any dendrites. You can see the two axon branches, one extending from the periphery and one extends into the center. So like this. So you can see here. Yes. So this is the dorsal nerve root ganglion, which has the cell body. So can you see the cell body? So that is the pseudo-unipolar neuron. And this is the section of the brain and the spinal cord. So now we can see in blue here. So that will be the cell body of the pseudo-unipolar ganglion. Now we can see the axons extending one to the periphery, that is maybe to the hand, and the other one is extending to the center. So this is to the brain or the spinal cord. So this is the explanation what I can give for the pseudo-unipolar neurons. So one picks up the sensation and the other one transmits it to the brain or the spinal cord. So now we can see this is the peripheral branch and a central branch. Coming to the other types of the neurons, next is the bipolar neuron. So here you can see, as the name tells, bi, it has two axons basically. So two processes extend from the cell body which is present at the center. We can see one axon and one dendrite here basically. So this type of cell is seen in olfactory epithelium. It might be the part of the retina also. So they are very exclusive to the structures, mainly the visual structures. So unipolar basically you can see in sensory, and bipolar you can see only in the olfactory epithelium basically. Next is the multipolar neuron. This is neither unipolar nor bipolar. This accounts to remaining all neurons of the body. It's the most commonest type of neuron. This multipolar neuron has one axon, as I shown in the earlier structure, and it has several dendrites. So now highlighting in the red. One more neuron, basically a type of it, is the anaxonic neuron. So an means without. So without axon there might be a neuron also. No axons, and it has only few projections from the cell body. This type of neurons cannot produce the action potential. It has the local potential, or it is greater potential basically. It has no axons to send the action potentials. So these are the basic classification of neurons: unipolar, bipolar and multipolar.